This is the disturbing truth about what happened to Samantha Koenig on February 1st, 2012 in Anchorage, Alaska. At a coffee shop called Common Grounds, at the age of 18, Samantha was working alone and late. When the last customer of the night came in, she greeted them and took their order. Captive footage shows the view from behind the counter, where Samantha can be seen doing her job while preparing the customer's order. However, nothing appears to be amiss. Before we begin, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell symbol for more wonderful videos. The 18-year-old girl stepped back from the window and raised her hands suddenly. Clearly still adjusting to her new job, she was completely unaware of the terror that was about to pounce on her innocent life. Samantha returned to the window and handed the unseen customer their order. Unfortunately, the captive didn't capture what caused Samantha's flight response to activate. It was pretty obvious. When it was dark inside the Common Grounds, the gunman quickly entered through the coffee stand's window and restrained Samantha with zip ties. He asked her where her car was, and she reportedly replied that her dad would be there to help. It was also evident from the video that Samantha had been instructed to turn off the lights in the coffee stand, which she did without putting up any resistance. Samantha Koenig, however, spotted an opening and seized it. She tore herself away from her captor's hold and fled as quickly as she could, but she was unable to outrun him after a brief pursuit that lasted only a few yards. Samantha was shoved to the ground by the man, who threatened to kill her if she didn't cooperate, but no one would hear because the ammo was suppressed. Young Samantha was so terrified and scared that she had no other choice but to follow the man's instructions. The 18-year-old hostage and the masked assailant crossed the street and entered a parking lot between an IHOP and a Dairy Queen. The masked assailant had parked his white truck there and had taken precautions to prepare for the abduction by removing the truck's toolboxes and license plates. A few minutes later, the truck drove away with Samantha Koenig bound in the passenger seat. Samantha begged them not to take her because her family didn't have much money, but the man in the mask wasn't deterred. He assured the young girl that if she cooperated eventually, she would be reunited with her family in good time. The truck was driven around town while the driver claimed that Samantha had only been taken for ransom. Samantha's abductor then sent 2 texts from Samantha's phone, one to Samantha's boyfriend and the other to the owner of the coffee shop. The texts gave the impression that Samantha was having a bad day and needed to get away for the weekend, but in reality, she was in fact being held captive. She was undoubtedly having a difficult day and was desperate to get away. The masked man forced Samantha to reveal his location in the middle of a public kidnapping as if his acts weren't brazen enough. He demanded her bank card, but she explained that it belonged to her partner and that she shared an account with him. Still bound in his truck, so he drove to their house while she was still there before breaking into their car. It was around 3 a.m. when they decided to grab the ATM card. Samantha's boyfriend saw the mask-wearing man standing next to his car. He approached the man and then turned around, inside to ask Samantha's father for assistance, but by the time they left the house, it was too late. The man had vanished, and Samantha's shared debit card with her partner was also gone. Samantha in Anchorage, Alaska, was hurt. All believed Koenig to be an unworthy, compassionate, and selfless person. The scenario was incredibly upsetting, with no one wanting to be anyone's prisoner. However, word quickly traveled in James Koenig's father chose to go public and take a medication because of the frigid air, asking his 18-year-old daughter, who has been abducted, to come home and be safe. As the days dwindled like wax from a smoldering candle, grave worries about Samantha's welfare grew. Fear of the FFB and local law enforcement started to fill the local community with a sense of gloom. To interview Samantha's relatives and close acquaintances in the hopes of finding a clue or lead, but everyone, including her boyfriend, had been eliminated and they had nothing. After 3 weeks of nothing but quiet and little leads, Samantha's boyfriend got a text that said Connor Park sign under the option Ain't She Purty and said who it was sent from. The cryptic message on Samantha's phone meant hope, so her loved ones made a quick trip to Connor Park in the hopes that the clue will lead to good news or maybe Samantha's safe return. However, they had no idea what they would actually find at the park. Someone noticed a picture of a deceased dog on the park bulletin board with the words, "Thanks for all the fun, Albert the Golden Doodle," and a Ziploc bag waiting to be opened. Inside the bag was a letter requesting $35,000 be deposited into Samantha's account if they ever wanted to see her alive again. There was also a picture of Samantha being held hostage and looking directly into the camera. A few hours after Samantha's dad deposited $5,000 in her account from community donations, someone withdrew that money using her debit card. Anchorage ATM footage showed a man with his face covered, wearing gloves and dark clothing, but nothing recognizable. Investigators rushed to the ATM, but they found nothing useful. The trail for Samantha's captor quickly went cold because he had already left with the money and the life of an 18-year-old girl. Samantha's abductor was traveling east on the I-10 when another incident occurred in Lordsburg, New Mexico, followed by another one in Humboldt, Texas. However, the men in the mask made a serious error. Investigators had a lead that just might help them find Samantha before it was too late when ATM footage from the withdrawal in Wilcox, Arizona, showed his white Ford Focus in the background. The image of the white Ford Focus was quickly shared with law enforcement worldwide, and on March 13, 2012, a state trooper just so happened to notice a car matching the description of the wanted car sitting at a hotel parking lot in Texas. When the Ford Focus violated the speed limit, the trooper pulled the car over. The officer had been watching the man get into the automobile and start to drive away. When the motorist was requested for identification, the officer was given a driver's license for a man called Israel Keys. When the car was inspected, they found Samantha's identification, her debit card, her mobile phone, and a gun. They also found the disguise he was wearing in the ATM film. The man was identified as Israel Keys, but Samantha was nowhere to be found. Israel was returned to Anchorage, Alaska, 2 weeks later. The FBI investigator who worked with Israel claimed that conversing with them was sometimes as easy as chatting with a neighbor, but that other times, the sound of his voice made the hairs on the back of your neck rise up. According to all accounts, someone from the U.S. Attorney's Office even hired Israel Keys as a handyman. Israel Keys was a well-liked, upstanding member of the neighborhood, according to his neighbors. There was nothing odd about him at all, but Israel Keys was in charge of two totally distinct lifestyles. His questioning did not take long to occur. The night he abducted Samantha Koenig, Keys admitted to killing her. He brought her inside his house and locked her there while his partner and baby daughter slept. Israel pumped up the sound, completely unaware of the monster lurking about them. To block out Samantha's screaming, turn up the volume. Key reportedly drank wine while explaining the situation to a horrified Samantha. What he intended to do to her specifically. Then he assaulted her sexually, and during the attack, someone reportedly strangled her to death. The murder of Samantha Koenig's confession was never made public. However, one of the detectives present at the confession claimed that the confession's keys reflected what occurred in its shed as though he were recounting his dinner. Hours after Samantha Keys and his family were raped and killed, they departed Anchorage. From New Orleans to Alaska to embark on a cruise, not arriving home for more than 2 weeks. Weeks keeping Samantha's body frozen and concealed in an obscure Alaskan shed. When he eventually returned home, he removed Samantha's sexually assaulted body. The ransom photo that was discovered in the body of her frozen corpse. Yes, Samantha had been dead for 2 weeks when the ransom photo was taken. He stitched her eyes open with fishing line, and the phrase "ain't she purty" took on a much more sinister meaning. Nevertheless, nobody was aware of the horror that was simmering beneath the surface of Israel Keys' sick double life. Keys cut up and dismembered Samantha Koenig's body after receiving the ransom photograph, and over the course of 3 trips to Matanuska Lake, he dumped her remains under the ice using a hole he had drilled for ice fishing. When investigators asked Keys if he had caught any fish, Keys replied that he had, and he took them home and ate them. Samantha's body was recovered by FBI divers after about 10 hours, and when they questioned Keys, they discovered that she wasn't his only victim. Samantha was his final victim, so it was clear they were dealing with a psychotic and heartless serial killer. According to the FBI, Israel Keys was likely killing people since he was. Keys is suspected to have at least 12 victims to date, but the feds believe he may have victims all over the United States. He admitted this to himself when he was approximately 20 years old and said that he had known from an early adolescent that he thought things were good while other people did not. In the 7 months that authorities had him jailed, Keyes gave interviews to almost 24 people, saying that he would divulge every graphic detail if they guaranteed that he would receive the death punishment for his crimes. Never take your surroundings for granted and never trust unknown eyes on your back that you cannot see. Always trust your instincts because reality can change in an instant and take your life away. Always try your best to ensure that your family never has to travel far from home. Innocent young Samantha Koenig was in the wrong place at the wrong time, resulting in the theft of a beautiful young life and the ruin of many others. However, because of her, the world is a little bit safer. That's it for today, guys. What did you think of the video? Please share with us in the comments section below. Also, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell icon for more unbelievable videos.